He had everything except time for his own son. But that day, something he witnessed changed his life forever. Stay with us until the end, and your heart will overflow with emotion. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and tell us in the comments where you're watching this story from. Jimmy was a man who had built an empire from scratch. His ability to turn small opportunities into major business successes earned him respect from some and fear from others. He was the kind of businessman who could enter a room and, without saying a word, dominate the environment. For him, time was as valuable a resource as money, so every minute was scheduled, every meeting meticulously planned. His days were filled with signed contracts, urgent phone calls, and trips to crucial meetings. His personal life, however, always came second. His family saw Jimmy as a successful man, but also as someone distant, trapped in a world of numbers and goals. There was a glimmer of achievement in his eyes, but also a constant weariness. He believed that providing comfort and security was enough to be a good father. He never realized that, while accumulating millions, he was neglecting what was truly priceless. His son, John, grew up surrounded by luxury, yet with a void that even the most expensive toys couldn't fill. Jimmy didn't see, or perhaps didn't want to see, that this emptiness could only be filled by something money couldn't buy: presents. It was on an ordinary Sunday afternoon that fate interrupted Jimmy's predictable life. John, just 8 years old, was playing with friends in the backyard when a careless moment turned joy into tragedy. A severe fall, a precise impact, and within minutes the boy was rushed to the hospital. The following hours were a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. Jimmy, used to solving everything with money and influence, discovered there were situations where none of that worked. When the doctors announced that John had lost the use of his legs, Jimmy's world silently collapsed. On the outside, he maintained a firm posture. On the inside, a wave of guilt and helplessness crashed over him. He threw himself into work as a way to escape the pain, while John began a long rehabilitation process. In this new chapter, a crucial figure emerged: the caregiver. She not only helped the boy physically, but also filled an emotional space that his father, tied up in meetings and travels, could not occupy. Over time, John and the caregiver formed a deep bond. She became a friend, a confidant, and at times even a motherly figure. She encouraged him to try new movements, celebrated his small victories, and wiped away his silent tears. Meanwhile, Jimmy sank further into work, convinced that he was doing the best for his son by ensuring a comfortable life. He didn't realize that the boy needed hugs more than bank accounts. Their conversations were reduced to formal questions, short answers, and long silences. John learned not to expect much, knowing his father always had something urgent to take care of. The emotional distance between them grew invisibly, like a crack slowly widening until it became almost irreversible. Jimmy, trapped in a world of acquisitions and strategies, failed to notice that he was slowly losing something infinitely more valuable than any million-dollar contract: a connection with his own son. That morning, Jimmy woke up earlier than usual. The clock, always relentless, read 6:30, but for the first time in months, he had no meetings scheduled. He looked out the window of his home office and saw the city still asleep. Something inside him told him that this day needed to be different. Perhaps it was fatigue, perhaps the weight of so many accumulated absences. He picked up his phone to call the office, but before dialing, he remembered that John was at his inclusive school, participating in a music project. His son's name echoed in his mind like a silent call. Without informing anyone, he dressed quickly, grabbed the car keys, and decided to go there. He didn't know exactly what he expected to find, but there was a restlessness in his chest, as if something important was about to happen. Every unusual step seemed to carry the promise of something new, something that could break the relentless routine that had held him captive for so long. Jimmy felt his heart race, a mix of anxiety and hope he hadn't felt in years. The sense of anticipation was almost tangible, and he realized that, perhaps, this simple gesture could be the beginning of a reconnection he didn't even know he needed. Upon arriving at the school, Jimmy walked slowly across the courtyard, observing the colorful walls and children's drawings. The distant sound of laughter blended with the soft strumming of a guitar. Every step he took seemed to guide him into a place outside his usual world of contracts and reports. The hallway was bathed in golden light streaming through the windows, creating reflections that danced on the floor. Jimmy felt his heart quicken, though he didn't know why. Perhaps it was the feeling of entering a territory that was physically familiar yet emotionally unexplored. The sound of the music grew clearer. He recognized the melody. A simple, cheerful song, yet full of human warmth, something that hadn't been part of his routine for a long time. Each chord seemed to penetrate his soul, reminding him of moments he had let slip away. He looked at the walls decorated with children's artwork and realized how vibrant life could be, even amidst challenges. For a moment, Jimmy felt small in the face of the pure joy radiating from that place, a joy that money could never buy. And for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to feel vulnerable and eager for what he was about to witness. When he reached the door leading to the main courtyard, Jimmy paused. He took a deep breath, as if he needed to prepare for something he didn't even know. He heard the children's laughter more clearly, and among it, a laugh he knew well, John's. It was a rare sound, almost forgotten in his memory. He held the doorknob and hesitated for a few seconds. Part of him wanted to step in immediately. Another part wanted to prolong the moment, as if the anticipation itself were a gift. The music swelled, and a shiver ran down his spine. Jimmy didn't know it yet, but he was about to witness a scene that would change not only the way he saw his son, but also the way he saw his own life. He felt a mix of fear and hope, fear that the distance had become irreparable, hope that there was still time. Every laugh from John seemed to call him silently, as if the boy knew he needed to be there. The sun shone gently across the courtyard, turning the moment into something almost cinematic, as if the light itself were conspiring to illuminate the reconnection Jimmy so desperately needed. Each second stretched, and he realized that, in that instant, nothing else mattered except what he was about to witness. Jimmy pushed the door slowly, as if each step could alter the reality before him. The sound of the music completely filled his senses, mingling with the children's laughter and the steady beat of clapping hands. And then he saw John, in the center of the circle formed by his classmates, smiling in a way that seemed to light up the entire courtyard. The caregiver spun him around, carefully adjusting the wheelchair with each step, while they both laughed together. Jimmy froze, unable to believe the pure happiness unfolding before his eyes. Every detail seemed laden with meaning. His son's confident posture, the caregiver's gentle care, the sparkle in everyone's eyes. It was such an unexpected moment, so simple yet incredibly powerful, that his heart raced. He felt a mixture of pride and guilt, realizing how much he had been absent from his son's life. For a few seconds, Jimmy wished he could freeze time and stay there, watching every gesture, every smile, every glance. The music and laughter became almost an invisible embrace, wrapping around him and reminding him of all he was about to reclaim. As the song progressed, Jimmy stepped closer slowly, trying not to interrupt the magical moment. He realized that John's joy didn't depend on anything material, but on the attention and love he was receiving at that instant. The caregiver, noticing the father's presence, gave him a serene, almost knowing look, and continued guiding John with care and dedication. Jimmy felt tears well up involuntarily. They were tears of surprise, relief, and an emotion he hadn't felt in years. He realized that every dance step, every laugh, every clap, wasn't just a child's gesture. It was a bridge beginning to reconnect father and son. The circle of children seemed to radiate positive energy, and Jimmy felt drawn into the moment, unable to resist. He understood that what he was witnessing wasn't just play. It was love, presence, care, and connection. Every second seemed to amplify the intensity of what he saw, as if life itself were finally offering him a chance at redemption. He took a deep breath, trying to absorb every detail, every emotion the scene stirred within him. Then John turned toward him, wearing a wide smile and eyes shining with anticipation. The child, even with his physical limitations, seemed to say without words, "You're here now. I needed you." Jimmy felt a shiver run through his entire body. For the first time, he wasn't the confident, distant businessman. He was simply a father, vulnerable, standing before the son he loved deeply. Every movement of the caregiver, every strum of the guitar, seemed to compose a symphony of redemption and hope. He realized that life had given him a gift, the chance to rebuild the lost bond, to be truly present. Jimmy took a hesitant but determined step forward. The music seemed to guide him, and every child around appeared aware of the importance of the moment. John's smile was contagious, and Jimmy felt his tension, guilt, and fear melt away in the face of his son's pure happiness. And in that moment, without words, speeches, or explanations, something shifted profoundly in Jimmy's heart. He knew that from then on, his priority would be to stand by John's side, living every moment as if it were unique. After that moment in the courtyard, Jimmy felt something awaken inside him that had long been dormant. For the first time, he realized that all his success, all the money and power he had accumulated, were insignificant compared to the joy and presence of John. He knelt beside his son, gently taking his hand, and felt a connection he hadn't experienced in years. Every laugh, every gesture of John, every loving glance from the caregiver seemed to shout to Jimmy that it was time to change. He understood that he didn't need elaborate plans or complex strategies to reconnect with his son. He just needed to be present, fully attentive, without rush, without distractions. The school, the children, and the music now formed a sacred space of learning, not contracts or negotiations. Jimmy took a deep breath and let his emotions overflow, feeling the weight of guilt and the lightness of hope simultaneously. He realized that these moments could not be wasted, that every second was too valuable to let slip away. A warm sense of responsibility filled him, mingled with the hope that he would never again neglect his son. Each smile from John now seemed a silent reminder of what truly matters in life. And, for the first time, Jimmy felt ready to be not just a businessman, but a real father, present in every step of his son's journey. In the days that followed, Jimmy began to transform his priorities. He reduced travel, delegated tasks, and committed to participating in John's daily routine. He started attending school regularly, helping with activities and getting involved in his son's development. John, in turn, began to trust his father again, smiling spontaneously, without fear or reservation. The caregiver continued to support the boy, but now with Jimmy present, their partnership became even stronger and more meaningful. Every small achievement of John was celebrated with tears of joy by his father, who finally understood that investing time and love was worth more than any fortune. Laughter and music filled Jimmy's home in ways money could never buy. He discovered that true happiness wasn't in material achievements, but in genuine connection with those we love. Jimmy established daily rituals, bedtime stories, park outings, small accomplishments that now held immeasurable value. Every conversation, every hug, was an investment in memories that would last forever. Gradually, John began sharing his dreams, fears, and little victories, and Jimmy finally realized the depth of the life he had neglected. His heart, once heavy with guilt, began to fill with genuine joy and renewed hope. Over time, Jimmy and John's story spread throughout the school and community, inspiring other parents to value presence over simply providing material comfort. Jimmy began supporting musical and inclusive projects, bringing instruments and resources to every child at the school. He became an example of change and how small actions can create enormous impact. More than that, he learned that the greatest investment in life is not in bank accounts or properties, but in the bonds we build with those we love. John grew more confident, happy, and secure, knowing his father was there, fully present, celebrating every achievement and facing every challenge together. Jimmy finally understood what it truly means to be a father: to listen, observe, care, and be present. He organized school events, dedicating time to teach, listen, and share experiences with other families. Every child became part of a larger network of love and attention, and Jimmy realized his impact extended far beyond his own son. John's smile grew brighter with each passing day, reflecting the complete transformation in his father's heart. Jimmy learned that real life is not measured by numbers or contracts, but by the time invested in those we love, the memories we create, and the moments we share that no one can take away. And in every gesture, every hug, every laugh, he finally found the greatest reward any human could desire: genuine love and constant presence with those who matter most.